This is the dog coat we're going to be making today. Chi-Chi, the Chihuahua, is modeling for us. This is a little bit too small for her, but what you want to do is measure the dog's neck, add an inch, crochet a couple of rows, slide it on the dog's head if you have access to the dog. Make sure it's not too tight, and depending on how giving or how stretchy the yarn is that you're going to be using will determine the fit. And I just rolled this back to make it a nice little collar. You can also do a very long chain stitch on both sides and then just bring them up on both sides and tie it at the top, or make a crochet belt and put a button on the other side. You can also dress it up by putting a button right here. I didn't finish doing that because I wanted to get this video on, because many people are asking me to make another dog sweater. So that's what we're doing today, and let's get started. Okay, today we're going to be making a dog sweater or dog coat. I happen to have some Red Heart reflective yarn, which works very good as a dog sweater, so the light will reflect on the sweater on the dog. If they get loose, you'll be able to find them a little bit easier. Because I only have one skein of this and I'm not sure if it will be enough, I'm going to go ahead and combine two yarns together. I'm going to use 2 strands of these yarns together. Now you can just use one yarn. You can use any color, any weight that you want, and you can use any size hook that you want, but I'm going to be using a size N or 9.00 millimeter today. And all you have to do is measure the dog's neck to get the size that you want, and that's all you have to do. That way it makes it a lot easier than trying to say this is for a small dog, this is for a medium dog, this is for a large dog. If you have access to the dog, you can measure the neck, and then you're good to go. And make sure you have your wide-eye needle for weaving in the ends. I just have a pen handy if I need to write something down, my scissors. And I like to use stitch markers. I believe this pink one is actually for knitting, but it may work with this project. And if you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a bobby pin. You can use a paper clip, anything that will kind of go through the yarn, you know, kind of hold your place like so. That's the whole purpose of it. Another piece of yarn can be used as well. Okay, so I'm putting 2 strands of yarn together. You can use one strand, and I'm going to pretend that I have a dog, and that dog's neck is 8 inches in circumference. So I want to make sure that I do chains, starting out with a chain stitch long enough to be 8 inches. So first you want to make your slip knot, and I'm going to make it this way today. I'm going to cross over, hold it, grab my crochet hook, go underneath, grab that one in the back, pull it through, grab this tail with my thumb and my forefinger, and my forefinger, and then just tighten up. Okay, so now what you're going to do is chain. So you have a chain of 8 inches. So I'm just going to chain several of these until I reach 8 inches. Add an extra inch to the dog neck measurement to slide over the dog's head. Okay, so here's my last chain right here. So there's my 8 inches. So this is going to be the size of my dog's neck right here. So now what we're going to do is single crochet all the way across to the end. So to single crochet, we're going to go into, I know, Kitty, I'm doing a doggy sweater. We're going to go into that chain, okay, and we're going to pick up the yarn, pull it back through, pick up the yarn, and go through 2. So there's your first single crochet, and this is where I like to put a stitch marker. So I'm going to put my stitch marker right here because this is my first single crochet right here. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to pay attention to your cat if they're meowing at you because they want something. Now I'm going to go do 2 more, and then I'm going to stop and pet my kitty, and I want you to continue all the way down to the end, and I'm going to meet you right here at the end. Let me just do a couple more for you. And of course this is easier to see if you're using one color, but I'm using 2 this time. So that's my second one, and here's my next one. Okay, so there we have 1, 2, 3 single crochets. I'll meet you at the end. Say hello to the audience, Mittens. She wants to be the center of attention. You can say something now. Mittens, say something. You're sitting on my yarn, Mittens. You know that, don't you? Okay, so I've come down to the end, and I have 20 single crochets. You might want to go ahead and count your single crochets so that you make sure that every row you have the same number that you've done on the previous row. Now, and that's also in case you forget to put your stitch marker in there. So I have 20. So now that I'm done at the end, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work. So we're working this way. Now we're going to flip it, and we're going to work back this way. Now I've chained 1, and I'm going to go underneath that single crochet, that last one that I did. This is why you have to chain 1, so that you can go into that same single crochet that you just did. So I'm going to go right in there, grab my yarn, come back through, grab my yarn, and go through 2. Oops. And I have to do it again because I messed up. Now, once you get going on this, you can just sit back, watch your favorite TV show or movie or whatever, because this is all you're going to be doing until you get a rectangle as long as your dog is to the beginning of where the tail starts. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple more. And once you get to the end, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work and single crochet all the way back. Now I'm going to put in another stitch marker at this end. Okay. And put that in my first single crochet. And just continue on. And I will go ahead and meet you at the end of this row just to go over that one more time with you. So single crochet, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you have a rectangle the length from your dog's neck to where the tail begins. Okay. Okay, so I've just done my last single crochet in this row. I'm going to chain one, and I'm going to turn my work, gonna flip it around that way, and I'm going to go right underneath that single crochet, grab my yarn, come back through, do another single crochet. Gonna do this all the way back down to the end again. And I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker in. Okay, and since I don't have a dog, I am going to assume my dog is a certain amount of inches long. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I will meet you when I've got my rectangle to the length that I want it, and we will go from there. Okay, so this is the length that I'm going to stop at, and I'm just going to pull the yarn and take my crochet hook out. You are not going to cut this at this point. Now, the measurements on mine, of course, you're going to measure your own dog, and like I said, you measured the neck of the dog to the base of the tail. So on this pretend puppy dog, I did 8.5 for the circumference around the neck, and I made the length, I think it's 10.5, okay? But you don't have to make it this long. I just took the measurements for you in case you were curious how long this is. So what we're going to do next, this part here where our last row is going to be the neck. And as far as the right side and wrong side, it depends on your particular yarn that you used and how it turned out. This is where we started, where we did our chain stitch, so you might consider that the right side. But in this project, it really doesn't matter. You're just going to use whatever side you want. If you want this side on top of the dog, then that's fine. Or if you want this side, to show on the top, then you just turn it over and stitch it that way. So I'm going to make this the side that you're going to see on the dog. And I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to bring this side together with this side. And in our next step, what we're going to do is we're going to take this yarn and we're going to slip stitch about down to that point. And once you do that, you can put it on the dog like this, or you can fold it back for a collar. So let's go on to the next step, and I'll show you how we do that. I also wanted to show you how much yarn that I had left. Again, I think this is for a very small dog, a teeny dog, and this is how much yarn that I had left out of the 3.5 ounces. So I did want to show you that as well. All right, so before I do my slip stitching, I went ahead and put my stitch marker in, because this is where the point that I'm going to slip stitch to. And the reason I chose that particular point was because when I folded it back, when I do make a collar, that is to the point where I want to stop for the collar. Okay, so that's why I put the stitch marker there. So I have my crochet hook back in the last stitch that I made, and I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to put the two ends together, and turn it like so that my yarn is right here, and I'm just going to put it right over here and put my fingers back through it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch the two together. So first I'm going to chain one, then I'm going to hold it together, and I'm just going to go right in here, sort of at whatever gap I have right here underneath the edge. Grab my yarn, bring it back through. I have 2 loops on the hook. I grab that piece right there and bring it through that last loop. That's your slip stitch. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go in right here, grab it, come back through, and go through that last loop on the hook. Okay, so you just want to continue this all the way to where you put your stitch marker. All right, so now I'm down to the end. I think I've got one more to do. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do this last one right here where my stitch marker is. Okay, pull the yarn, take your crochet hook out, okay, so what we're going to do right here is we're going to cut our yarn. Okay, get your crochet hook. And I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put this back in, pull that tight again. I'm going to go ahead and do one more chain stitch and then pull it out and take that and tighten it up. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to weave in the end. This is longer than I need, and I'm going to shorten it a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to weave this end, and we're going to weave this end. All right, so I've got my wide eye blunt needle, and I got an eye big enough for both strands to go through. If you don't have one big enough, you can just weave in one strand at a time. And you want to take that and you want to just go back through so that you can tighten this up and hide the strand. Okay, so I'm just kind of weaving it through. Okay, so I'm just weaving this. Okay, and right here I'm going to do this last little bit right here so that it comes together a little bit better. There, I got that tight. And I'm going to come around one more time right here. Let's do it right there. I'm going to go through. Now I don't have much yarn left. This is my loop. Hold on. Okay, got a loop right here. I'm taking that needle, I'm going to go through the loop and tighten it. And then I'm going to go back through one more time. Maybe even one more time. I'll make sure it's good and tight. Okay, and now you can take your scissors and you can trim that end. So when you go to wash it, you don't have to worry about that all coming undone. So you want to do the same thing at this end, and you just want to get your needle and just weave it in until it's hidden, and I would go in this way back. So let's do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and weave in this last piece, and I probably should have left it a little bit longer, but we're just going to go right in here, and I'm going to go all the way through. Okay, pull it through. I've got a little knot right there that's in my way. Okay, and just come back through again, and if you've got a longer tail than I do, then I would suggest maybe doing this one more time, but I've only got enough to do it twice. And now I'm going to take it out. Got that weaved in, and we cut it. Okay. Alright, so there you have that sewn. If you turn it inside out, you can put it on the dog just like this. You don't have to sew a button on. Should be fine just like this, or with the collar. Okay, and you just slip it over the dog's head. And you're all finished. There's your dog coat. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I have many more projects to come.